sometimes you have a scene where it really makes sense to render out everything in separate layers, painting in separate layers. And, well, we've tried to make that as easy as possible for you with the built-in ID passes. Sometimes you just want different buffers. So here's the background. Let's say we want this separate. I'm going to go to Sticky Tag, Add Sticky Buffer Tag to Selected Objects, and it's going to prompt you for a number, not a word, so just 1. Now, take a look down here. Here's the cyc wall. If I select this, here's the buffer number. You can edit it, but I'm just going to leave it at 1. Now when I go here, buffer 1, I can render that, and it's going to render without the other objects in there. Notice how it's not rendering with the other objects matted over the top. We have another way to do that, but this is designed for if you're building up layers and you want to paint on them and be able to, I don't know, shift stuff around or paint without the obstruction of the other objects. So let's say you want to paint underneath or behind this P. You can still do it using this render because you're actually seeing this background right here. So anyway, let's say that we want to make this have its own buffer as well. Yeah, this P here. I'll just press 2 after I add the tag. So notice that this one has a buffer number 2. This has 1. And these particles here, let's say we want them separately as well. 3. Okay. So now these all have different buffer numbers. And I'll render out buffer 3 here. So you can see that. And actually, one of the things that I want to do, just to show you how this works, is you can go to Sticky Tag, delete all buffers and associated tags. That's going to remove all the tags from this scene. So you can do that. Notice how the tags went away. There are no more buffers. Let me undo quickly. Then another thing you could do is say that you want to get rid of everything on buffer 3, have that selected, and go to go to remove selected buffers. So now that one's removed. And actually, what I eventually came to wanting to do is I have this P, and I have these particles here, and I want them rendered the same. So I'm just going to Command, click and drag this tag over to the emitter, and now you'll notice that these are on the same buffer, this buffer 2. If I want to render these all separate from each other, well, there's a button here called All Separate, and when I click the render button, it renders the buffer 1 background, and then it renders buffer 2, which are these objects. So I'm just going to quickly go into After Effects. There's more info on this on my website or aescripts.com. But let's say that I have this this buffer here, which has just these little P's. Well, the advantage is that if I want to paint on this and I don't want to paint these separately, I want to paint all of them at once, I can just have the sticky pass selected and not worry about the ID pass at all. And now when I paint on this P, and I use this button, the glue button, all of them are painted because all of them have the same coordinate mapping. And that's one of the reasons why you want to use the buffers, is that if you're trying to paint all the same objects at the same time, you don't know where the heck this paint is going to go if there are other objects in the scene. So it does make sense to isolate these objects in a separate buffer.